The shadow of the U-boat blockade already cast its chill upon us. All our plans depended upon the defeat of this menace. The Battle of France was lost. The Battle of Britain was won. The Battle of the Atlantic had now to be fought.
In the years before the Second World War, Hitler had gradually rebuilt the German Navy, as he had his other armed forces, in defiance of the existing treaties. The pocket battleships, light in weight but carrying formidable armament, allowed Germany to evade the clauses of the Treaty of Versailles, a treaty that had already been violated since 1935 by the construction of U-boats. Meanwhile, Hitler doesn't believe, contrary to his admirals, that this time the outcome of the war will be decided on the oceans. He sacrifices naval interests in favor of the Air Force. Most German admirals do not oppose Hitler's decisions and even praise him to his face, as does Grand Admiral Raeder.
My leader, you have led us, the Navy, and a whole grateful nation out of the darkness of night towards the sunrise and a bright future. May the blessing of the Almighty be with you and the German people on the steep and arduous road to triumph on which you are leading us.
They form a particular caste in the hierarchy of Germany, these professional sailors who are yet dedicated Nazis. Raeder, Grand Admiral of the fleet, and the Commander-in-Chief of the U-boats, Admiral Dönitz. Now an old man, Dönitz lives in a small villa outside Hamburg. He had been one of the U-boat aces of the First World War, and today he still maintains that if Hitler had given him in 1939 the 300 U-boats he had continually demanded, it is more than possible that Germany might have won the Battle of the Atlantic. Still in service with the West German Navy, the Hecht is the last U-boat to have been used during the Battle of the Atlantic. Returning to her after more than 20 years is Otto Kretschmer. During the Second World War, Kretschmer was one of the most successful U-boat captains, known as the Wolf of the Atlantic. He is now an admiral on the staff of NATO.
At the outbreak of war, I was 27. We had undergone 4 years of rigorous training and were very keen to serve on U-boats under the impression that we were the elite of the Navy.
When the war begins, the German Navy has only 23 ocean-going U-boats, but they are ready. And for their crews, there will be no phony war. From the first day when they leave to the sound of martial music for the open sea, the war will be savage, exciting, and full of action. The purpose of the U-boat is to hunt and to kill. The prey on the horizon is the signal of alert. Everyone knows by heart his particular action station. Everything now hangs on the word of the captain, who sees for all, thinks for all, and decides for all.
Lampensignale.
In the first month of the war, the U-boats of Admiral Dönitz sink the aircraft carrier Courageous and some 40 merchant ships, sending 150,000 tons to the bottom. On the 17th of October, 1939, Captain Gunther Prien and the crew of his U-boat are received in triumph upon their return to Germany. On the night of the 13th, Prien had slipped into the anchorage of Scapa Flow in the Orkneys. Hugging the seabed, and in spite of strong currents, his U-boat had managed to bypass the block ships sunk in one of the entrances. Once through, Prien found the home fleet at anchor in the moonlit bay. Calmly, he released 7 torpedoes at the assembled warships, sinking the 27,000-ton battleship Royal Oak. And before the surprised Royal Navy could recover from the attack, his U-boat withdrew past the block ships and regained its home base at Kiel. Prien and his crew were received by Hitler, and Dönitz was promoted admiral.
On the outbreak of war, Winston Churchill is once more appointed First Lord of the Admiralty. He knows only too well that for centuries the fate of Britain has depended on control of the seas. The fact that she is an island is as much part of her weakness as of her strength. Churchill hastens to arm British merchantmen and urgently reintroduces convoys, the age-old system of defense employed by every naval power since warfare began. The immediate responsibility for convoy organization and protection falls to Admiral Sir Percy Noble, the brilliant Commander-in-Chief Western Approaches. Every month, up to 1,000 ocean-going ships bring to Britain from all over the world the vital supplies she needs to live and to enable her to defend herself.
At the end of 1939, the Admiral Graf Spee, one of Hitler's 3 pocket battleships, commanded by Captain Langsdorff, is preying on British shipping in the South Atlantic. But the British cruisers Achilles, Ajax, and Exeter are one of the hunting groups sent to track down the pocket battleship. Cleverly judging the Graf Spee's next probable move, Commodore Harwood, who commands the squadron, takes up his station off the River Plate on the Argentine coast. At dawn on the 13th of December, Graf Spee appears on the horizon and battle begins.
The British cruisers mount a lighter armament than the pocket battleship, 8-inch and 6-inch guns against her 11-inch. But they're faster, and by attacking from different angles can force her to divide her fire. 6 minutes after opening fire, shells from Graf Spee destroy the bridge of the Exeter, killing everyone but the captain. Next, the 2 front turrets of the British cruiser are knocked out, but she doesn't break off the engagement, and with 57 sailors dead and another 23 wounded, continues firing with the remaining 2 rear turrets. But the German ship has also taken serious punishment, and now withdraws under a heavy smoke screen to take refuge in the Bay of Montevideo.
According to international convention, the Graf Spee can stay in a neutral port for 72 hours. But it would take Captain Langsdorff at least 2 weeks to repair the damage to his ship. Meanwhile, his crew begin to land the wounded and bury those killed in action. But Captain Langsdorff fails to obtain permission to remain longer in Montevideo, and Graf Spee sails on the morning of December the 17th, watched by enormous crowds. Over the horizon, the crippled British cruisers are waiting. Eight miles out from the port, Graf Spee, pride of the German Navy, scuttles herself on Hitler's orders with the ensign flying. The fate of his ship and crew have been settled. But 3 days later, in his hotel room in Montevideo, the courageous Captain Langsdorff settles his own fate with a bullet. Not for a long time will a German surface raider risk sailing the open Atlantic. Dönitz was right, and the ideal weapon for the Atlantic campaign is the U-boat. He has 30 in operation in 1940. When the German armies invade France and occupy the whole of the Atlantic coast, this now provides new bases from which the U-boats can massacre Allied ships. German submariners refer to this period as the happy time. It is the time of the great aces, Green, Schepke, Kretschmer. Their low silhouettes almost invisible in the dark, the U-boats attack at night on the surface. The ASDIC detecting gear in the escorts is of little use against a surface U-boat. The bolder commanders, such as Kretschmer, even penetrate between the columns of the convoys to pick their victims. Between July and October 1940, the U-boats sink 217 ships, totaling some 1.5 million tons.